Good day everyone, thanks for joining me for this September symposium, and the topic today is going to be about heritage marketing and tourism. There is a lot to say about that subject, so in this presentation I decided to relate the subject with another one that is very important and that should be taken in consideration when we talk about culture marketing whenever it is about heritage or tourism. This other subject is sustainable development applied to culture. It is related to the environment and other major problems that the world of heritage is facing today. Before starting, I refer you to my previous articles and videos related to the subject of museology and display available on the Heritage for All page. So let's get started with the discussion of this symposium about marketing that I have titled Eco-Development of Heritage in Perspective, Heritage and Tourism Marketed, the Challenge of Harmonization. I just want to highlight four important elements of my presentations and the problematic related to marketing heritage and the challenge of the future. First, the process of patrimonialization impact on the environment. Secondly, the superstars world heritage as a global black monopoly. Thirdly, the integration of culture in world dynamics with the Agenda 21 of culture related to UN Agenda 21 on sustainable development. And finally, the eco-development strategy that brings nature and human activities together. In France, the heritage sites developed mainly in the political and institutional context of the French Revolution. The evolution of the concept of heritage has since followed the many changes in society, particularly with the relatively new appearance of the notion of patrimonialization. By studying the history of heritage from its beginning to the most recent strategy proposed by UNESCO for the defense of heritage, tangible or intangible, natural and living, the concept is established as a product of the modernity, going with the construction of modern nations and states, post-colonialism, the evolution of democracy, and the transformation of industrial societies, ecological and environmental consciousness, or the protection of cultural diversity in the context of globalization. The notion of heritage has produced many impacts, both in terms of discipline, such as art history, ethnology and museology, and on the transformation of the territory and the environment, as well as on the renewal of political history and the buildings of nations. With the era of multimedia and the internet, heritage continues to grow as a social and cultural phenomenon, particularly through its staging with audiences and tourists, its scenography and its amazing narration in the service of attractiveness. Heritage marketing and its strategies for the widest audience is a central political and economical issue at the heart of cultural debates as an important driver of country development. But heritage and mass tourism are also sources of imbalance and destruction for sites themselves, for the environment and the quality of life. A prospective dynamic would make it possible to envisage an innovative marketing able to integrate the concept of sustainable development applied to the heritage and tourism domains based on the concept proposed by Ignacy Sachs in his eco-development strategies appeared in the 70s. Many sites in the world are victims of their tourist overcrowding, as it is the case of the city of Venice in Italy, for example, which received 59,000 visitors per day, while its capabilities should not go beyond 33,000, according to NGO Italia Nostra. This finding shows that the growth of aquatic transport due to the overpopulation causes the destruction of the lagoon ecosystems. In Peru, the case is the same for the site of Machu Picchu, the busiest in Latin America. In 1992, the number of visitors per year was 10,000, a number that has multiplied by 10 today, revealing the flaws of the heritage marketing version. UNESCO in 2008 issued a warning against destructive mass tourism that causes deforestation and landslides near the site. The Mediterranean in the south of France is suffering the irreparable damage of the degradation of its coast and the marine ecosystem due to overabundant tourism threatening natural areas. 220 million visitors visit the Mediterranean every year, and in 20 years from now, according to the World Wildlife Fund, they will be 350 million. Could SAC's eco-development lead to a better management of heritage sites and a promotion of smarter tourism that would open doors for marketing possibility to the notions of a more responsible heritage and tourism, minimizing the negative effects of the dominant development policies used so far? While some heritage sites continues to be overvalued in advertising and the collective imagination, others, on the contrary, are left behind or even hidden to the benefit of other superstar sites that are more attractive and better staged. A balance must therefore be found between the economic and the cultural in order to produce an equation capable of solving critical issues related to the environment, resources, and the social ecosystem. The Agenda 21 for Culture, adopted by the UCLG in 2015, incorporates fundamental ideas initiated by Ignatius Sachs in the eco-development strategies, putting respect for nature and the environment at the heart of our system in symbiosis with man in his activities according to the diversity of context. Finally, we will talk about an exceptional Parisian heritage that has been overlooked in silence despite the regular promotion campaigns, which we have entitled The Shimmering Heritage of Paris. Confused with the notion of communication, heritage marketing, like that of museums, remains unclear in France. The rise of marketing took place in America during the years 1950 to 1960. In the world of culture, marketing suggests that it is now necessary to focus on the consumer's point of view by placing it in the middle of prerogatives. It was in the years 1969 that the marketing expanded to other areas, services, people, and non-profit organizations such as museums. In post-war American society, particularly with the rise of non-profit organizations, the transfer of marketing innovations had become imperative. In the 1970s, Philip Kotler supported the theory that the concept of this transfer must be done at the level of relations between organization and the general public, and no longer only with consumers. Today, marketing is conceived as a pedagogical model that allows the viability of long-term organization. In the cultural context, its purpose is not only to make a profit, but enable the organization to fulfill its mission. However, let us underline problematic related to the marketing of the heritage which opposes two concepts: that of the sacralization of the representation of the patrimony, to the more pragmatic of the world of the performativity and the commercial relations typical to the society of consumption. This performative dynamic conceives more of the heritage as part of the market than outside it, and it's therefore likely to be marketed like any other product. In this sense, heritage marketing will participate in the commercialization of culture, its Disneyization, McDonaldization or McDisneyization, neologism borrowed from the works of sociologists Bremen and Ritzer, accusing the hyperreality of heritage a reflection of postmodern society. Criticism against the development of the heritage industry, which is dedicated to transforming the past into attractive events and heritage into a commodity object, was formulated in 1987 by English historian Robert Ewison. In France, a strong skepticism has taken place against the development of the heritage, notably through the scientific literature, in the heritage interview conducted since 1988 by the Heritage Department of the Ministry of Culture, which highlighted the Heritage Academy. The economist perspective has developed rather slowly in places like the Puy du Fou, but has continued its progress through the development of marketing and the promotion of events organized by heritage sites and museums aiming at the uprising of funds. At the Versailles Museum in Île-de-France, for example, there are marketing concepts related to landscape and architecture, with les grandes eaux et les jardins musicaux. Another example is the Fête de la Musique, organized in the various museums of France, as in Orsay, which is also like the event at Versailles, carried out in order to attract a varied public, which in turn invigorates the spaces of the art by having several activities within the same place. Cultural organizations are trying to meet the demand of its cultural clientele by diversifying its offers through attractions of all kinds as much as possible, but also by setting up fun, interactive and meeting spaces like concert halls, cinema, conferences, shops, restaurants and cafés. The Centre Georges Pompidou, in the heart of Paris, is an excellent example of heritage marketing initiatives over the last 40 years. Beyond its original architecture, which was the subject of much publicity in the 70s, the museum offers a living space open to the city and renewed thematic exhibition regularly, linked to conferences and roundtables and other events. The global innovation of the Art Center has thus attracted more than 2 million visitors in the region of Paris in partnership with 40 cities, 75 partners venues, 50 exhibitions, 15 shows, concerts, and performances in 2017. In Paris, the record attendance in one weekend was exceeded during the big festive birthday weekend with 87,000 visitors. For its 40th anniversary in December 2017, the Pompidou Center adopted its first objectives and performance contract for 2017-2019, a strategic management tool between the institution and its supervisors, defining the axis of the cultural policy and activities of the center based essentially on three main priorities: cultivate innovation and originality, reach out the public and networks and to make the debate live, and invest in the openness to the creative approach within the society. The marketing concept of heritage focuses on the idea of living unique experiences within sites or museums offering exhibition and related activities. Its foundation lies in what the visitor, client, call it like that, desires and the means employed to respond to his request. It is a matter of getting to know him better and evaluating him better also in order to allow the implementation of the necessary strategy to meet the ambition of cultural heritage projects. Examples of marketing are numerous. They pass through an attractive and fun staging of the heritage towards the youngest public, including the creation of workshops, but also towards young adults by organizing themed evening exhibitions such as the Quai Branly Jacques Chirac Museum with the Before, or at the Guimet Museum offering thematic concert and thematic activities. France has been one of the important vectors in terms of heritage policy. From the French Revolution, a form of official patrimonialization emerges and will eventually help structure its own public policy in the second third of the 19th century. With regard to heritage policies, the adoption of cultural heritage protection regulations by national administrations show the differences and the different method adopted by the European and North American institutions. The first regulations emerged on Italian territory during the 15th century. It was in the Pontifical States that, from the beginning of the 19th century, installed a system of protection that extended into all other states even before the Italian unity. In the United States, the model of private initiative developed also. In 1850, the first legislative measures appeared in the state of New York, and more followed up to the 30s with the development of a patrimonial will for the associative commitments, the foundations and policies of the states based on public and private partnership and patronage. In France, the notion of patrimonialization developed within the social science, underlining the mission of the association or the opposition between the public authorities and the social partners. Heritage is the result of collective mobilization and cultural claims rather than the product of a choice and selection of objects based on conventional administrative or academic rules. Patrimonialization, however, becomes the product of a fixed process. It is defined by Michel Rothenberg and Cécile Tardy as a process of reappropriation of collective time, of social symbolization around entities linked by common representations, be it a landscape, the environment, popular festival, or world music that spread the message of a shared and multiple world. In the last quarter of the 20th century, the Western world participated in the government's policy of reconstructing the past in a context where the welfare state was questioned. In the 80s, France considerably expanded the legal, political, and cultural framework of the past with the Heritage Year and the creation of the Ethnological Heritage Mission. The generalization of the concept of heritage is beginning to develop, notably at UNESCO in 1993, with the organization of World Heritage Cities, or in England, where industrial archaeology is in full swing. Under Margaret Thatcher, state interventionism in heritage policies was striking with the creation of a national agency whose objective was to encourage the conversion of former industrial sites into tourist sites. The crossroads with other disciplines, such as heritage studies, developed in the Anglo-Saxon world in the 90s, opening doors to multiple innovative experiences around the world, aesthetic, mythical, or traditional. This patrimonial movement became a major source for the economic and social sector to the detriment of the state. However, although heritage has given rise to new forms of action that are sometimes opposed to institutions or public authorities, the strong competition between cities and regions or communities in France shows that the state administrations are still decisive, making heritage an issue of development policies, particularly in rich urban centers, the popular suburbs, the countryside linking agriculture production, landscape, preservation, and tourism. Patrimonialization is a major agent of the tourist economy, particularly through the staging of the authentic and local so dear to tourists from around the world. However, this issue weighed heavily on the environment, raising many questions about cultural practices. How to reconnect the practice of cultural heritage activities with respect for nature and environment. How to rebalance culture and mass tourism with an innovative action that would benefit the planet. The globalization of the welfare market has also influenced cultural marketing strategies, both globally and locally, creating a symbiosis of both trends. In the economic sense, patrimonialization has become a globalizing process. Their strategy are materialized by major investments, the Louvre Lens, Louvre Abu Dhabi, etc. These superstar museums have entered a new phase where they are establishing their presence in emerging tourism countries and creating an unproductive black monopoly for world heritage in terms of ecology and environment. In 2017, France received 87 million tourists, whereas that number was 75 million 15 years ago. This growth is due to the stronger attendance of visitors from Asia, Central Europe, Africa and Latin America. The most visited places are the city of Paris, the castle of Chambord, Le Mont Saint-Michel, or villages of Provence and Alsace. These places are still threatened by massive and unbalanced tourism. However, the French government still wants to increase the number of tourists for the year 2020 to 100 million. One of the solutions by the local states was to try to dissuade tour operators by increasing different rates, such as parking, for example, or even to impose an entry fee to villages. Another solution is the balancing of visitor flow throughout the year in order to boost daily life during periods of low attendance. In Paris, with 30 million visitors a year, the method is to offer reservation online and at defined times in order to regulate the queue. Thus, the Louvre Museum has set up ticket sales for 3 years time-stamped, allowing access to collection within 30 minutes after the schedule. The same method has been used for the monument of the Eiffel Tower since July 2 with a relatively average success. What could be done to balance the equation between human activities such as tourism and nature? Between the 18th and 20th of March 2015, representatives of the cities and local governments of the world, convened by the World Organization of United Cities and Local Governments at the Culture Summit, adopted the Agenda 21 for Culture. This agenda follows the Agenda 21 adopted by UN in 1992 in Brazil on sustainable development that preceded the Agenda 30 called Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Did the promise from UN came true? Among the many actions at the heart of this document, the promotion of the integration of the relationship between citizenship, culture and sustainable development, as well as the essential role given to the world of culture in the post-2015 agenda remain crucial. Thus, according to this document, no development can be defined as sustainable without taking into account the major importance of cultural factors, among them cultural diversity, memory, creativity, and knowledge. In the perspective of transformation of the world, the reference context of sustainable development includes the cultural dimension as well as the dimensions environmental, economic, or social. Also, culture is constituted by the values, beliefs, languages, art, and knowledge by which a person, individually or collectively, expresses all his, her humanity as the meaning it confers on its existence and his or her development. Culture is a common heritage that expands the capacity of everyone to create their own future. Each person is a cultural bearer involved in the development of universal wealth. Finally, another important notion is that culture is a process that makes it possible to understand, interpret, and transform reality. Cultural rights are an integral part of human rights. So cultural citizenship encompasses rights, freedom, and responsibilities, giving everyone access to and participation in the cultural and symbolic world at all times of life, with the aim of developing the capacities of sensitivity, choice, and critical thinking that enable harmonious interaction as well as the building of citizenship and peace in societies. The cultural factors of sustainable development are taken into account by all the interconnected cultural, environmental, social, and economical factors. Cultural goods and services are not considered goods because they carry meaning and identity. The text adds that reducing the culture to the market value of its expression limits or cancels its dimensions of common good and consequently its transformative capacity. 21st century business models should enable a more coherent articulation between the public, private, and civil economy and ensure respect and dignity of people's social justice and the environment. To be sustainable, the economy should analyze the values that feed it and consider the cultural resources of the environment in which it develops. Cultural activities are essential factors for an integrated and sustainable economic development. They allow the renewal and the creation of new economic activities, reinforce the entrepreneurship, the access to employment, and insertion being a determining factor of attractiveness of the territories and promote tourism development. Also, the territory is the result of the interaction between the environment and human activities whose impact should be studied. Cultural governance is also considered from the point of view of the balance with local cultural policies. Governance, multi-actors, cross-cutting, or horizontal and multi-level or vertical. For example, over-institutionalization can unbalance the local cultural ecosystem as well as excessive privatization. The establishment of these prerogatives involves international networking and the realization of cooperation scenarios between cities and local governments in different regions of the world. Out comes the dual dimension of local international work by promoting the concept of sustainable development. These many good ideas are still waiting to be achieved today. Could they be too global, even if more responsibilities are given to local government on the planet? Is a global solution a solution for each different context? The eco-development strategies, initiated by Ignacy Sachs, could be more centered on the urgent problems. Can we find the foundations of a renewal for the promotion and management of heritage? What is eco-development strategies? It is a general strategy based on a global analysis of the current development crisis, and it's proposing a global project aimed at third world countries and industrialized countries. Current policies lead to a double waste of natural human resources by the rich and the poor, by the north and by the south. And this waste is closely linked to inequalities of economic and political power. Better resource management is therefore inseparable from a civilization project which in economic terms would act jointly on social demand, particularly for the benefit of non-market goods and services, and on social supply, particularly through the choice of technologies. The location of activities, while political, promotes the creative participation of all human groups, and culturally, it would take into account the diversity of their legacies and aspirations. Eco-development makes it possible to choose the most appropriate solution for each natural, social, and cultural ecosystem to guarantee the improvement of living conditions in all social groups in solidarity with future generations. Self-creations of housing, new industrial civilization of the tropics, regional planning in the Peruvian Amazon, and the organization of different tourisms are many examples. The term eco-development was initiated by the controversial Maurice Strong in 1972 at the Stockholm Conference, dethroning that eco for ecology and economics proposed by a participant at one of the parallel forums at the official conference. Initially, eco-development was defined as a development strategy based on the enlightened use of local resources and peasant know-how applicable to isolated rural areas of the Third World. It was with the Aqueduct Declaration of 1974 that a richer concept of eco-development was formulated. The text focuses on the need to help people get education and to organize themselves in order to develop specific resources of each ecosystem for the satisfaction of their basic needs. The ethic of this concept on development proposes an egalitarian application as well to the poor countries as rich in rural, urban, or in the industry. It is a tool for perspective and exploration of development options, challenging current practices without opposing growth. The challenge is to find ways and means of growth that make social progress compatible with the sound management of resources and the environment. This concept proposes to rethink the development strategies of rich and poor countries and their modes of cooperation. The development crisis is a global phenomenon. In order to remedy the poor distribution of wealth and the waste of resources in both poor and rich countries, it is necessary to undertake a large-scale action at the global level. For this, it is necessary to denounce the bad development of the so-called developed countries and the consequences that it causes on the rest of the world by domination and by effect of training and by imitation of the model. One of the goals of the eco-development is to use natural resources rationally and to improve the living and the working conditions of the population. This operational strategy combines growth and protection of the environment. Man is considered to be the most precious resource. As such, eco-development must contribute to its realization through employment, safety, the quality of human relationships, and respect for cultural diversity. The approach is to avoid waste and to use renewable resources as much as possible. It involves the technological transition, a central element in the implementation of planning. Also, eco-development requires the establishment of a horizontal authority able to overcome sectoral particularism in collaboration with the complementarity of the various actions carried out. The strategy tries to react to the prevailing fashion for so-called universalist solutions and global formulas. Its scope covers food production, housing, energy production and consumption, the industrialization of renewable resources, conservation of natural resources, and social services. Eco-development believes in the ability of human societies to identify their problems and provide them with original solutions while inspiring others and highlighting self-reliance. Applied on culture and heritage and tourism marketing and management, the strategy would give other perspectives in better harmony with environmental issues for each different context. Let's look at some alternatives for heritage marketing and tourism. Eau de Paris is the municipal authority responsible for producing, distributing, and ensuring the quality of tap water distributed in Paris. Custodian of a unique industrial and hydraulic heritage, but poorly known, Eau de Paris manages 6 water treatment plants, 470 kilometers of aqueduct, 5 drinking water tanks located at the gates of Paris, and 1,200 fountains and spots of drinking water. Eau de Paris is responsible for letting the public discover an exceptional heritage through different cultural events over the years, such as the Festival Paris Face Cachée, the European Heritage Days, or the Vendange de Montmartre. A true heritage of water, the Parisian geological bassin, contains a vast body of groundwaters known as the Albion. Located at the maximum depth of 900 meters, it represents about 700 billion cubic meters of water. The Albion constitutes a strategic water reserve composed of an interwoven series of sands, sand of Frécambeau, sand of Drillon, and green sands in relation to the underlying nappe of the Neocomia. These drinking water reserves were the subject of a drilling of artesian wells between 1833 and 1848 under the administration of Rambuteau. The Grenelle well is the first well drilled in Paris to supply the district of the left bank, la rive gauche à Paris. The drilling was done in the slaughterhouses of Grenelle. In February 1841, the drilling tools reached the water table at the depth of 547 meters, spilling 40 liters per second and flooding the entire site. Numerous other wells were dug between the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. 5 of them have been renovated and 3 are equipped with drinking fountains. The fountain of Place Paul Verlaine in the 13th district of Paris, that of the Square Lamartine in the 16th, and finally the fountain of the Square of the Madonna in the district of La Chapelle, located in the 18th arrondissement de Paris. This water of excellent quality is weakly mineralized and contains less calcium and magnesium than the water of the network, but it remains well charged with iron, which requires a fountain equipment with a system to reduce it, since the amount of iron is higher than the level of the public health standard. Remember to go and try this water. The Reservoir Monsoon is a mythical work of the 19th century, built by engineer Eugène Belgrand in the south, in one of the highest points of the Parisian capital, to collect underground waters from the region of Sens and conveyed on more than 150 kilometers through the Aqueduct of the Vanne. The work was completed after the Commune and the war against Prussia in 1874. The Reservoir of Monsoon was for a long time the largest reserve of drinking water in Paris, but also in the world. It consists of 2 superimposed floors with an area of 60,000 meters square, offering a maximum storage capacity of more than 200,000 cubic meters of water. In our time, the reservoir still supplies water to the French capital using the long aqueduct, which carries groundwater for more than 100 kilometers. The 2-story building has 4 compartments, each being 254 meters long and 127 meters wide. 1,800 pillars support the vaults and arcades on both levels of the building. In 2010, Eau de Paris initiated a project to renovate the tank, respecting the original shapes and color of the period, which requires a real craft work where 940 meters of new railing were installed for this sole purpose. The Aquatic Cathedral is connected to a command center classified as Vigipirate and is therefore kept under surveillance 24/7, and since 2001 it is closed to the public following the attack of the World Trade Center. It can be visited, however, during events such as the Heritage Day. The main lantern of the Reservoir of Monsoon has a ceiling of the early 20th century made by ceramic factory Jeannin Frères and Guérinaud, where the coat of arms of the city of Paris is visible, with the mention of sources that have fueled the reservoir through time: Vanne in 1874, Loing and Luna in 1900, and Voulzy in 1925. In a second Empire-style architecture, the Monsoon Reservoir, with a decorative cave atmosphere, is composed of water compartments made up of old aquariums built into a wall of false rocks. In the past, aquariums were used to test the quality of water, thanks to the presence of fish, called the trouts of Monsoon, which gave birth to the legend. But since 1996, the analyses have been carried out in laboratories and have definitely replaced the chronometers. The reservoir remains by its architectural quality and its mysteries, one of the best known in Paris among the 5 tanks of the capital: Ménilmontant, dating from 1869, Monsoon from 1874, Saint-Cloud from 1899, de Lilac from 1963, and finally Les des Roses of 1969. The Pavillon de la Porte d'Arcueil was built in 1930 as a water chlorination station before being stored in the Monsoon Reservoir. Today it's used as a place for observing groundwaters, the only place in Paris where it is possible to enter an aqueduct. Since 2007, the building is decorated by a sculpture by Claude Lévesque titled Tchaikovsky. Reminiscent of a liquid surface, due to its corrugated metal, it looked like the open doors to an underground universe little known to the mysterious Paris. The heritage of water, industrial and hydraulic, includes rich Roman constructions, building of the 19th century and of our period. offers of discovery through the Parcours de l'eau, and various themes around biodiversity that are essential to the Eau de Paris missions to help improve the quality of life of individuals and to share a little-known heritage of its kind. Perspective in the field of heritage marketing and tourism foresees the increase of cultural sites altogether, like museums, villages, archaeological sites, beaches, etc., but also the change in behavior of visitors looking for more authenticity in their cultural activities and the sharing of multiple experiences in the same space-time, the short bursts and time versus leisure. Also, the search for a more ethical tourism in line with the ideas of the global mobilizations for the defense of the environment shows that the visitor want an original contact with the place of their visit and more interactivity and total immersion. The saturation of the most fashionable sites, the superstar establishment, and the engine of a global cultural economy in correlation with the mass consumption encouraged by over-marketing has come to an end and has shown its limits. Major museums such as the Louvre of the Eiffel Tower monuments in Paris are saturated by their large number of visitors, as are the village of Provence or Alsace in France. Sites like Le Mont Saint-Michel, the beaches of Mediterraneans that are invaded by tour operators from all over the world are proof that emergency alternative must be put in place. But has Agenda 21 for Culture achieved any of its goals and promises through its global solutions? The original ideas of SAC's strategy for eco-development were more contextualized, and Agenda 21 contributed more to the materialization of a new style of the development, where a real challenge for smart planning in symbiosis with nature and human activities everywhere on the planet, a new path towards a challenge of the harmonization between cultural world and nature. Thanks for watching.